So now, if you remember right, if you were with me about a month ago or so, we tackled the topic of creating a shell account. And if you remember right, I had my technician on site getting ready to do an install, and he couldn't do the install because the account had not been created yet. So our entire topic that day was creating the shell accounts, and we didn't do anything else but create that shell account. Well, unfortunately, the homeowner wouldn't let my technician in that day, so he wasn't able to do the training or the install that we wanted to do. But he finally got out there yesterday, did the install, brought me back my data information sheet, and then that's what we're going to start with. So again, from a month ago, we've got our dealer test account right here that we created. So we're going to go ahead and pull that account up. And as you can see, it's all just the plain dealer shell account information. We don't have any name. We don't have address, anything like that. So that's what we're going to start on today. So once you select your account, it takes you to the locations page. You've got the dealer test name over here in the tab. And then we're going to slide on over here to the right and look at the location information. Again, no information. It's just the plain old shell account information. So we're going to click the pencil. That's going to open up the edit location information. This is where we're going to start updating our information. And so you can say, like, yes, we're adding an account information, but in reality, because we copy from templates, we're just basically editing this information, right? Because this information already lives in the system. All we have to do is go in and replace it with the customer's information. So you can type in however you want. It doesn't have to be all caps. When you hit the save button, it's going to automatically capitalize all the data. So if you're comfortable just typing away, like I do when my text and stuff like that, I don't capitalize anything. I don't put punctuation in there for anything. It just does it for you. So this will automatically capitalize all your text. So what we do with residential systems, and this is a residential system that my technician installed, we do last name first, comma, space, first name. Okay, so real simple. We're going to type in the customer's name. So we got last name, comma, first name. Now, if there's a spouse or a significant other that wants to also be on here and listed, in this case we do. We have Rennie, she's on here. She wants to be listed. We do a slash and then the second person's name. So nice and easy. Again, last name, comma, space, first name. Now, if this was a commercial account, we would just type the business name in there, just however it is, however they want it. First Place Sports, whatever it might be, you just go ahead and type that in directly in there in the location name. Now, to update our location address, we simply click the radio button that says yes, because we want to update the address, obviously, because X isn't a good address. So we do that, and now we're just going to type in our information. So, real quickly, if you have a directional in the address, so you've got like southwest, northeast, northwest, whatever it might be, you're going to abbreviate that, okay? You don't have to type all that out. Save some keystrokes. Same thing with the street type. So, DR for drive, ST for street, WAY for way, you can do that one. That doesn't save you much. So, but like boulevards, abbreviate that information. So, just kind of make it easier for you when you're typing that in there. So we got 1 Southwest Magical Drive. Now we're going to go ahead and do our zip code, right? So we're going to type our zip code in, and you're going to see any cities with that zip code are going to pop in there. So I've got 4 cities that have 32830. So select the correct city, and you'll notice now my city, my state, my county, and my country all populate automatically. I don't have to worry about doing that. Just by selecting that those fields are going to pop in there. So now I'm going to do the phone 1 and the phone 2 if I need to do a phone 2. Phone 1 in the past has typically been the premises phone number, right? Everyone had landlines back in the day, so it was a premises phone number. Nowadays, you don't get that quite as much. You get more along the lines of that's the homeowner's cell phone number. So if that's the case, if you're typing in phone 1 and it is the homeowner's cell phone number, you can put one of two things in the extension field, okay? You can put either cell, and that's fine. That lets our operators know that when they're making the phone calls that that's a cell phone number they're calling. Or in a case like this where we have 2 people listed on the site name, it's great to go ahead and put the person's name that cell phone belongs to. So in this case, it's Ricky's cell phone, so we can go ahead and put that in there for the extension. Again, that just lets our monitoring reps know that that's a cell phone, and that's who they should be, expecting to talk to is Ricky when they call. Doesn't really change anything else. It's just basically for notification purposes and educational for us on our side. Now, in this case, I could also put Rennie's phone number in the phone too if I wanted to. That would just mean that we would call her twice. We'd make 2 phone calls, which we have to do anyway in Florida. But we like to do it a better way. We like to use the ECV contact list, which we'll tackle that next week. So we're going to leave Rennie's phone number off of phone 2 right now. We'll add her to the contact list next week, and we'll make her on the ECV call list. So we've got our phone 1 in here. We slide on down, residential location type. We don't have to change that because that's what we selected when we created the shell account. Now we basically just have to do our code words. So our code word 1, our code word 2, right? So these are just basically the get full name passcodes. Okay, so anybody at the site that we're talking to or that are on the contact list, if they give us this code word 1 or code word 2 and they give us their full name, they essentially can do pretty much anything. They can verify a false alarm. They can place the account on test if they need to. Typically, not always, but typically the code word 1, code word 2, they are for the homeowners or people that live in the home. If there's someone else, like a person on the contact list, like a neighbor or a housekeeper or something like that, a babysitter, they might give them a different passcode and set them up on the contact list with a different passcode and a little bit less authority as well. Again, we'll cover that next week, but just keep in mind that when you're doing the code word 1 and code word 2, that's good for pretty much everything on this account. So if someone gives us that, then and gives us their full name, then they're in good shape. So we're going to go ahead and type this in. There's our code word 1. We don't have a code word 2 on this one. Now our bottom 3 lines on the location page, they're custom value fields. Custom value 1, custom value 2, and custom value 3. Some of our dealers use these. Some of them don't. It's not a required field whatsoever, okay? But what some of our dealers use these for, as you can see, my demo dealer that I'm using right here, Just to Mirror Alarms, I use custom value 1 field for the GSM and cell service. So I use a lot of different third-party cell services. I've got Alarm.com, I've got AlarmNet, I got Connect24, I've got Cellular, I've got them all. So whatever I want to use, I go ahead and enter that information in here. So in that case here, I'm using Alarm.com on this account here. So, and the good thing about that is I can run reports off that later on. So if I'm using a lot of different third-party services in this case, like I am, I can simply pull up a report and look for that value in that custom value 1 field, and I can tell quickly how many Alarm.com accounts I have, how many Cellular accounts I have. So it's really nice to use that. Again, not everyone does, but some people use it. The other thing they use it for, as you see on custom value 2 line, is the billing customer number. So I use QuickBooks for all my billing information. So QuickBooks has its own customer number for each one of my customers. I go ahead and enter that in here. And then now I've got a cross-reference between my billing software and my monitoring software. So I now can look, I can add the account number that I have on here, the demo 4020. I'll add that to my QuickBooks account, and I'll add the QuickBooks billing customer number to here. Okay, now you'll notice that the 3, I don't use the 3, and it's just set to custom value 3. That's what it defaults to. And if you guys log in to your systems and you look at these, they probably say custom value 1, custom value 2, custom value 3. You're able to go to the administration link right over to the left, and if you go in there under default settings, you can actually change what those values mean to you. So now any of my people that work for me and have a login for Compass, they know what custom value 1 field is because it says GSM cell service, billing customer number 2, or custom value 2 is billing customer number. So it just allows you to define those and what you're using them for. Okay? So that's it. So that's my location information. How easy is that? Pretty simple, right? The only thing you have to do, and you have to do this, trust me, if you don't, you're in trouble, hit save. So you got to save your information, right? So just always hit the blue save button. And you'll notice when you pop out of here, now it's updated. I don't have dealer test on the tab anymore. I don't have dealer test. I've got all my customers' information now in front of me, okay? So that's my location information. That's the very first step most people take when they're adding account information. The second step they want to do is accounts. So right here you can see I've got my CS number, demo 4020. I've got my system type that was automatically or assigned when I created the shell account a month ago. Now I can click on the pencil and I can update some information on the accounts page. So one of the first things I want to do, again, I've mentioned this several times over the last month or so, maybe the last 2 months, the panel type. It's not a required field, but we really, we suggest highly putting information in there and using that panel type field. If for no other reason, like I said, to be able to track what customers have what panels out there. It also helps with troubleshooting as well. So your on-call service techs, if we call them at 2 o'clock in the morning, they can ask us what the panel type is, and we can say, well, it's CADX NX8E. And they probably will know, okay, I don't have to run a truck to this customer. I can call them and walk them through their trouble right there. So if we have that information, we can provide that to the on-call techs. That's a real big benefit to your on-call techs, trust me. The other thing it's good for, too, is if there's a firmware update or something like that from the manufacturer, you can easily run a report off that panel type field and find out how many customers that firmware update is going to affect. So again, it's not a required field, but it's really, really useful if you do put that information in there. So the panel phone number, I don't have to worry about the panel phone number because it's automatically going to populate when the system sends a signal in there. So I don't have to worry about that on there. Below that is my unit ID field. And we use this for multiple things. So you can use it for a SIM number, a MAC number, serial number. So if you've got radio units or cell units out there and you want to put the serial number in there for trackability, you can do that. Elevator 800 numbers, you can put that in there as well. So that unit ID, it's really just an informational field, but it's a really good informational field, especially for tech support purposes, okay? Now below that is my automatic timer interval. We all call them ATIs, right? Because it's easier to say ATI than it is automatic timer interval. That's basically my timer test. So you can set up, or your technicians can program a panel to send a timer test, be it on a daily, a weekly, a monthly. But if you don't enter the information in here, our mastermind system is not going to track that. Okay, so if it misses a timer test, you're never going to know. So it's really important to put in here, what the ATI hours are. So the way we do this, it's kind of tricky, but once I explain it, I think it'll make sense. So a daily timer test is what? Daily is 24 hours. So it's going to be sending a timer test every 24 hours. Weekly is 7 days, right? So 7 times 24 is 168. And then monthly, we use a 30-day month, just because it averages out that way. So 30 days times 24, that comes out to be 720 hours. But you don't put those values here. What you do is you'll add 2 hours to any of those. So if it's a 24-hour daily timer test, you're going to use 26, okay? Just like this, you're going to put 26 in here. If it's a weekly timer test, you're going to put 170, and then finally, if it's a monthly timer test, you're going to do 722. Okay, the reason we add those 2 hours in there is because the panels won't always send that test signal dead on the exact time that you think they're going to send it in there. And if you put 24 in there and it doesn't send the timer test until 24 hours and 1 minute, it's going to trip a missed timer test. And then you're going to think that, well, there might be something wrong with this because it just tripped a missed timer test. That 2 hours is kind of like a little buffer, right? So just know that whenever you're doing this, you got 26, 170, and 722. And if you've got other accounts online with us, that have ATIs, you can always look at those. And if you ever happen to forget exactly what the values need to be, again, it's just 24 times whatever number of days and then add 2 hours to that. So 26, 170, 722 for monthly. A lot of residential customers like this one here, they'll do a monthly timer test just to make sure that it's sending some type of the timer signal, once a month. Obviously commercial fire, NFPA fire, UL fires, those are going to be daily timer tests. You'll definitely want to put the 26 in there for that. I'm going to make it nice and easy for the rodent residents. We're going to do a monthly timer test. Okay, so we'll leave it at 722 hours. Now our ATI option defaults to standard. Okay, and for most accounts and most dealers, standard is fine. So what does standard mean? Standard means that our clock is going to reset after any signal received. It doesn't necessarily have to be a timer test signal that resets the clock. Okay? So basically, a lot of dealers, especially for residential, the thinking is, I don't care if it sends a timer test. I just want to know on a monthly basis that it sends at least one signal. Doesn't have to be a timer test. It can be anything. So if that's the case, standard is perfect for you. Now on fire accounts, if I'm going to do a fire count, I'm changing this to 26, and fire counts require it to be a timer test only. So your option for a fire account is going to be timer test only. You would select that. And then again, this would be 26 hours. That means that the clock is only resetting after a timer test. Now, with that said, I know I have a lot of dealers at CMS right now that do timer test only for all of their accounts. And that's totally up to you. It's 100% a business decision on your guys' side. The reason being, and I understand the reason, to be honest with you, the reason being is that they want a timer test only to reset the clock because, what if you got an AC power failure? That's a signal, right? So the AC power failure is a signal that would then reset the alarm or set the clock for the timer test. So now all of a sudden they lost power. We don't get a restore or anything like that. It could go 30 days before a missed timer test trips again, all because and it didn't send a good signal. It sent a power loss. So that's the thinking behind a lot of our dealers using the timer test only, even on residential systems. Okay, so again, it's completely up to you how you want to do it, but it does make sense to me for the dealers that do want to use the timer test only to reset that clock. So in this case here, I'm going to go ahead and leave that alone and just leave it as timer test only. And then we're going to talk about the ATI late event. The ATI late event, it defaults to GNOT. And this NOTT just stands for no timer test. G stands for log, and you can see it right out here. It says timer not received. In parentheses, it says log. Okay, so what's that mean? So that means that if it misses its timer test after 722 hours, it's just going to log to the event history on the account that there is a missed timer test. We can get that information 3 different ways, really. Okay, a lot of you probably already have a scheduled report or a subscription set up every day coming to you looking for missed timer test, and you work off of that sheet right there, and you're sending your service techs out to check on those systems and stuff like that, or calling the customers trying to have them test their alarm, that type of thing. So you're working off of that scheduled report that's coming to you every morning. The second way you can do it is, and we've talked about this in the past, there's a recording if you have questions on it, but on the dashboard page here, we've got widgets there for missed timer tests, and you can simply go to the widgets on the missed timer test on the recent activity and on the fire activity tabs, and you can see what accounts have missed timer tests in whatever time you're looking at. So that's the second way. The third way is you can set someone up in your office or multiple people in your office to receive an SMS or an email auto notification anytime a missed timer test populates on one of your accounts. Now, that third way, that works for a lot of people, but if you're an alarm dealer that's up in the, 5,000 to 7,000 to 10,000 account range or something like that, you're probably going to have an upset technician because he could be getting a lot of SMS or email notifications because of missed timer tests. Hopefully not. Maybe everything is testing correctly like it's supposed to be. But more times than not, when you have that many accounts, you've got also a lot of accounts that are missing their timer test. So the SMS may not work quite as well for a super large dealer, but definitely the other 2 ways. That schedule report that's coming to you every morning, and we can help you get those set up if you need to, or just flat out going to the dashboard and looking at it real time and seeing what accounts are missing their timer tests. So that's why we default to the log only, because you can get that information pretty easily without it dropping to one of our operators and us making phone calls and everything else on it. And that turns into a signal, what we call an OHA, an operator handled alarm. And now, you want to minimize those as much as you can. This is one of the easiest ways to minimize it, is just let your missed timer test be log only and then retrieve it from your scheduled reports or the dashboards or SMS. Okay? Now, my next field is mailing frequency. And I won't talk too much about it because we don't really use it much. I was telling someone the other day that, this is my 21st year with CMS, and when I first started with CMS back in 1999, it was my job to install and train the predecessor dealer portal to CMS-Compass. It was called MassLink. It was an old DOS-based system, had to be installed on the dealer's computer, and then it communicated to CMS via modem-to-modem communication. I guess it was high-tech back in 1999. But anyway, with that MassLink, you couldn't do scheduled reports like you can do now. So you would have to go in and you would say, okay, what customers do I want to send a monthly email or a monthly fax or monthly web to? And you would select all of those accounts with that mailing frequency, and then you'd go into the reports in MassLink and you would run that and just look for that mailing frequency, and then it would spit out all those accounts all at once on your dot matrix printer, and then you'd have to tear off the tabs and then separate them and then stuff them into an envelope. Okay, so we've made some advances, obviously, in the 21 years. That's why we don't have to use this anymore. But I do have some dealers, left over from the MassLink days that are still using it. So that's the only reason why it's there. But for new accounts, most likely for you guys, you're not going to need to worry about using the mailing frequency, okay? The last field on this page is install date. And this is a little bit different than the activation date. And I'm going to move this over just a little bit to show you. On the system page, you'll see the active date column right here. Okay, the install date is completely different than the active date. The active date is the date that we first received the signal from this panel. Okay, so whenever it trips its first signal, the active date field is going to populate. The install date, again, not a required field, but a lot of my dealers are using it. This is actually, you can enter in there when it was installed. So this is a really good example. If you remember right, I created this account for Jimmy back on May 7th, 2020 at 4:17 p.m., because we thought he was going to do his install, but he didn't do his install that day. So now I can go ahead and I can click on my calendar and I can say Jimmy actually did the install on June 10th. So although I created this account back on May 7th, the actual install was June 10th. And that's just real good information, so you can pull that up. Again, this is a field that I can run reports off of. When I do my account summary report, it shows up on that report as well. There's my activation date right below that. That's blank right now. Okay, so that's all my account information. So the system. So when you talk about account, that's talking about basically the panel that's at the location. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit save. Never forget to hit save. And then that's populated for us now. So now we've got our account number. Our panel type is now there. And, Jimmy didn't do his job, unfortunately. I have to send him back out there so that he can trip it and send a signal so that we can actually get the active date populated as well. So our location information's done. Our account information's done. Now we're going to slide on down here to our tabs. And most of the time when I'm doing we're doing full-on trainings with a dealer one-on-one with data entry, we tell them that we kind of put these tabs in the order that we suggest doing them. Just because it's a nice flow, right? So you can see here that the third tab is zones, the next tab is contacts, and then agencies. Those are all required tabs, okay? That's why the font on them is red, okay? So typically we tell people, do your zones next, do your contacts after that, then do your agencies, and then jump down and do the other pages as well. But we felt like we didn't want to do zones first. We want zones and contacts to be together, and agency just seemed like a nice way to flow into the data entry. So we're going to skip these two for this week, and we're going to go right over to agencies. So we're going to click the agencies tab. Again, you'll see that it's red font, and you'll see why. It's because we require fire, medical, and police agencies on every single account. So 9 times out of 10, you guys all know this, fire and medical are usually the same phone number, but we still want them listed separately. So every single account has to have these 3 agencies. Okay, and we make it real simple for you. We go ahead and load the agency types on this page, and then all we have to do now is click on the plus sign to go ahead and add that agency type. Okay, so we're going to jump to the agency. First one we're going to do is just at the top of the page. It's going to be the police, right? You can search by an agency name 3 different ways, or an agency 3 different ways. You can do agency name, you can do the phone number of the agency if you happen to know it, or you can do the agency number. I will tell you, I probably only have 2 dealers out of 3,500 dealers that actually use the agency number, okay? Because the agency number is something that our mastermind monitoring system automatically assigns to an agency when it's created. And it's somewhere between a 7-digit and a 12 or 14-digit number. Just there's no rhyme or reason whatsoever to them. But I do have a couple dealers that do use the agency number. They know exactly what agency numbers they need. They're in a smaller area in a county, so they know what to use for those. So that's why that's on there. But 99% of you are probably going to be using the agency name for this. Now, our agency table is kind of messy. That may be an understatement. And part of that is because we've been in business since 1978. Agency phone numbers change all the time. A lot of times they don't tell us if it's changing. We just get an update that it's a new phone number. So we add another phone number for an existing agency instead of replacing it, like probably should have been if they would have told us exactly right. So anyway, over since 1978, our agency table has grown and grown and grown. So you're going to see when I do a search here in a second, there's going to be multiple listings for one agency. And what I always tell people when I train them is, if you see multiple listings and the same phone numbers, just pick the top one. That's typically the easiest way. And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about here in a second when I pull up the county sheriffs for this location. There's going to be multiple Orange County sheriffs, but they're all going to be the exact same phone number. And, you know, a lot of people kind of worry about that. Our monitoring reps don't see the description. They don't even see the phone number, to be honest with you. It automatically gets dialed by the system, and then the 911 dispatcher answers the phone, and they don't know what the description is, right? So now, some customers, you know, if you're running an account database report for a customer and you're sending it, they may question it if they live in Orlando and the police agency says Miami. That's kind of extreme. I don't know that we have any like that, but, that may raise a red flag. So we would want to update it that way. But you're going to see what I'm talking about here in just a second when I start to do my search. The easiest way I can tell someone to do a search for the agency, if you don't know exactly what agencies there are. And in this case here, this is my first account that I've installed in Bay Lake. So I don't know the agency that I need to go in there. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to type in the city name and see if Bay Lake has a police department. So I'm just going to type in Bay Lake, and you can see no data found, right? So nothing's there. So that tells me that it's going to be the county. And if you remember right, from my location when I updated that was Orange County that I was looking at. So we're going to do Orange County. And now it's going to populate. All right, so now I've got Florida. I've got Orange County Sheriff. There's 407-737-2424. That's Orange County. Now, right below that, like I said, there's another listing for Orange County Sheriff, exact same phone number. It's got a little bit different description. That's from Northville. That's a small town in Orange County. And we have some that are kind of like that. You'll see Northville. You might see Apopka on here. There's Winter Park. Here's Oakland. So even though they're all the same phone numbers for the Orange County Sheriff, there is a little bit different description. So in this case here, if I was actually doing a Northville account, if my city was Northville, I would go ahead and select this one, just so if I ever ran the report for my customer, they would see Northville on there. But in all reality, the system is going to dial 407-737-2424, regardless of whether we choose this one, this one, this one, this one, or this one. So it doesn't really matter in the whole scheme of things. It just, for the reports, I understand, you want as close to the description as possible. Now, I don't know for 100% that these guys respond to my address, 1 Southwest Magical Drive. So what do I do? Do I select it and just hope for the best? Probably not the best thing to do. So dealers have to do the exact same thing that our dealer support people do. If our dealer support people aren't given the correct agencies or the agencies from the dealers to do data entry, what we would do, and what you'll have to do, at least till you get used to all your agencies, is pick up the phone and call 407-737-2424 and say, this is a non-emergency call. I'm trying to find out if you respond to an address. Okay, what's the address? 1 Southwest Magical Drive, Bay Lake, Florida, 32830. They're going to say one of two things, right? One, no, that's not us. That's actually Bay Lake City. Here's the phone number for them. Or two, more likely in this case here, yes, we respond to that. So you go, great, thank you very much. And then you can even kind of kill three birds with one stone, maybe. You go, okay, can I ask you one quick question? Is this the correct phone number for fire and medical as well? And if they say yes to that, now you can just search for 737-2424 when you add your fire and your medical. In this case here, they're going to say, nope, it's not the same phone number, sorry, and I don't have that phone number. So, okay, thank you very much for your time. We've added the police agency. We hit our save button, and now we're going to slide down here to our fire. We're going to click our plus symbol, We know that the number is not 2424 because that's what they just told us. And then we're just going to do the same thing, right? We know that Bay Lake doesn't exist, so we're just going to type in Orange County. Again, it's going to start populating. There's the 2424, but they already told us, the sheriff's office told us they don't respond to it for fire. There's the next number. So now I'm going to call this number, 2450, ask the same question. They're going to say, yes, we do respond to that. Okay, perfect. Can you tell me if the medical is the same number? Yes, it's the same number. So now I can go back here and I can add my paramedics. And now I can do my phone number if I want. And I can look for the 737, if I do 407, it's going to find that phone number for me. There's my 407-737-2450. I select it. Orlando, Florida. I hit save, and now I'm golden. I've got my 3 agencies. My font has turned to black. That means I'm a good person. I'm not missing any information on here, and I'm set, right? Now, with that said, you guys are probably in some areas that might require permits, right, for dispatching police department and stuff like that. So if you're in any areas that require, a permit for dispatching, then what you want to do is you want to add it to your police department right here, correct? Because most of the time we don't need permits for fire. We do have it available, but 9 times out of 10, if we need a permit, it's going to be right here on the police. So you'll see the little plus symbol under the permit column. You'll click on that, and the add permit is going to pop up. All you have to do on this add permit is just type in the permit number. And then down here where it says description, you just simply type in PD. And all that does is that just kind of sticks out to our monitoring reps. When the 911 dispatcher asks for the permit, they're going to notice the PD permit. They're going to read off 12345-AD, and then they'll go ahead and be able to dispatch hopefully off of that. So we'll hit save, and now we've got our permit number added to our police department. Okay? So again, you have the ability to add it to fire or medical, but most of the time you're not going to need that. And just know this, if you find out down the road, I didn't talk about this Tuesday, so I'm glad I'm talking about it today. If you find out that maybe this is the wrong phone number or the wrong agency, if you delete this, it's going to delete the permit as well, okay? So you'll need to re-add that permit back in if you delete the regular agency, okay? So it's really important. If you do something or you delete this agency to add a new police agency back in, you're going to lose this permit. So you'll have to add that permit back into your new police agency, okay? So that's going to wrap it up today. I hope I covered some stuff for you guys. Hope I answered some questions. Like I said, we've covered the location information. We've talked about the accounts. We talked about agencies. If you have any questions about any of those 3 things that I didn't cover today, reach out to dealer support. You can also ask your BDSR, stuff like that. You heard me reference a couple schedule reports for like missed timer tests. If you don't have that set up and you want those set up and need some help, reach out to dealer support. We can definitely help you with that. Next week, like I said, we're going to tackle zones and contacts and possibly general dispatch instructions if time allows, and that would kind of wipe out the main tabs for data entry. But definitely zones and contacts will be next Tuesday and Thursday. Once again, Tuesday will be 3 p.m. Eastern. Thursday will be 2 p.m. Eastern. We'll be recording the sessions and uploading them to our YouTube channel, so you can always get to those. And as I mentioned earlier at the very beginning of this, if you go to the newsroom in Compass, you're going to see right over here where it says quick links. For one, here's our CMS YouTube channel. So you can go right to that and see any of the last 8 weeks worth of chats that we've done, plus a few other shorter recordings that we've done. There's some 1-minute and 2-minute recordings on there dealing with certain topics and stuff like that. So you can go to the CMS YouTube channel and see what we got there. And then like I was talking about earlier for Instagram and Twitter, There's the quick links to get to Twitter and Instagram to follow me, CMS Compass Guru. So all that's under the newsroom. Again,